It feels that everywhere you look these days, there's just an overwhelming amount of information, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like a constant deluge.
But deep down, I think what we all really crave is that clarity, that ability to cut through all the noise and get straight to the heart of what truly matters. What actually makes a difference.
Yeah, to distill things down to the essentials, to understand the core principles without getting bogged down in all the extraneous details.
Exactly, and that's exactly what we're aiming for here, to provide that direct line to those core insights, especially for those of you out there who, like us, value your time and are eager to learn and grow.
Absolutely, to make the most of every learning opportunity. And in this deep dive, we're tackling a topic that I think has resonated with people for generations: the principles of success.
Success, that elusive thing we all seem to be striving for in one way or another.
Right. But what does it really take to achieve it? What are the underlying principles, the habits, the mindsets that set those who achieve great things apart?
Well, to get some answers, we're turning to the work of a man who dedicated over 2 decades of his life to studying just that, Napoleon Hill.
Now, for those unfamiliar, Hill was an American author who's considered one of the pioneers of the self-help genre.
And his most famous work, Think and Grow Rich, has sold millions of copies worldwide.
But what's really fascinating about Hill's approach is that it's not just based on abstract theories or motivational fluff. He took a very methodical approach, conducting expensive interviews and studying the lives of over 100 incredibly successful individuals from various fields.
People like Henry Ford, who revolutionized the automotive industry.
Thomas Edison, the prolific inventor.
Even Woodrow Wilson, who led America through some incredibly transformative times.
And by carefully analyzing their stories, their habits, their mindsets, Hill was able to extract certain fundamental principles that seem to be common threads running through their journeys to success.
So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack those principles, to distill them down to their most actionable and insightful essence, and to explore how they might be relevant not just for those seeking to build vast fortunes or empires, but for anyone looking to achieve a greater sense of purpose, fulfillment, and yes, success in their own lives.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, an artist, a student, or simply someone who wants to make the most of their potential, these principles offer a valuable roadmap.
So with that said, let's jump right in. And the very first principle that Hill emphasizes as absolutely foundational is the power of having a definite chief aim.
Now, this might sound deceptively simple at first. I mean, of course, we all have goals, right?
Sure, we have things we want to achieve. But a definite chief aim, as Hill describes it, is something much deeper and more powerful than a vague desire or a wish list.
It's about having that one overarching, crystal clear objective that acts as the guiding star for all of your actions and decisions.
It's like setting sail with a precise destination in mind. Without it, you're just drifting aimlessly, subject to the whims of the currents.
And what's so compelling about this idea is that Hill doesn't just present it as an abstract concept. He backs it up with fascinating real-life stories.
Like the story of Dr. Gonzalez, a clergyman who had this burning desire to establish a school of technology where young people could learn through practical application.
He even delivered a powerful sermon titled, "What I Would Do If I Had $1,000,000," outlining his vision in vivid detail.
And guess what? Philip D. Armour, a prominent meatpacking magnate, was so moved by his passion and the clarity of his aim that he actually provided the $1,000,000 to make it a reality.
Talk about the power of a well-articulated and deeply felt purpose.
Right. It's like that clarity of vision acted as a magnet, drawing in the resources and support needed to bring it to life.
And it's a principle we see play out time and again throughout history.
Think about the aftermath of the devastating Chicago fire. While many merchants were understandably reeling from their losses, Marshall Field had a different perspective.
Instead of dwelling on the destruction, he envisioned something even greater emerging from the ashes.
He had this incredibly vivid mental image of a grand new retail empire rising up in place of what had been lost.
And that powerful vision, that definite chief aim, became a driving force that propelled him to rebuild not just to his former level of success, but to even greater heights.
It's like he understood that amidst chaos and uncertainty, a clear aim acts as an anchor, a beacon of hope, and a roadmap to guide you forward.
And this makes you wonder how many of us are navigating our lives without that kind of clear direction. Just kind of going through the motions, reacting to circumstances, rather than consciously shaping our own destinies.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It is. And Hill actually argues that a huge proportion of people finish their formal education and enter the workforce without ever really defining what they truly want to achieve in life.
They might have vague ideas or follow conventional paths, but they lack that burning desire, that crystal clear objective that gives their efforts true meaning and direction.
And he goes so far as to call this a modern tragedy, pointing to the immense untapped potential that lies dormant within so many people.
But the good news is that it's never too late to define your own definite chief aim. And the inspiring examples we find throughout history, not just in the world of business, but in all walks of life, show just how much we can accomplish when we do.
Think about Statler, whose aim was simply to provide consistently excellent and home-like hotel service.
A seemingly straightforward idea that led to a revolutionary and hugely successful hotel chain that redefined the industry.
Or Edwin C. Barnes, who had this singular obsession with partnering with Thomas Edison and his dictating machines.
A focus that ultimately led him to financial success and a lasting association with one of the greatest inventors of all time.
And then there's Woodrow Wilson, who for a quarter of a century concentrated his efforts on reaching the White House.
A long game that eventually paid off, leading him to become President of the United States.
Or Abraham Lincoln, whose unwavering commitment to freeing the slaves shaped the course of a nation and left an indelible mark on history.
These are just a few examples, but they really highlight the universal power of having a definite chief aim, regardless of your field or aspirations.
It's about identifying that one thing, that overarching purpose that you're truly passionate about, that resonates with your core values, and that you're willing to dedicate your energy and focus towards achieving.
And once you've defined that aim, it's not about trying to go it alone. A crucial aspect of this journey is building what Hill calls a friendly alliance and cultivating a mastermind.
Now, the concept of a mastermind is fascinating. It's not just about assembling a team of talented individuals. It's about creating a synergistic group where the combined intelligence and efforts of the members are far greater than the sum of their individual contributions.
It's like the old saying, two heads are better than one, but taken to a whole new level.
Exactly. And Hill emphasizes the importance of carefully selecting the members of your mastermind.
These should be individuals who are genuinely supportive of your aim, who believe in your potential, and who possess skills and perspectives that complement your own.
He even suggests formalizing this alliance by writing down your definite chief aim and sharing it with these key collaborators.
To really establish a shared understanding and commitment. But there's also a caution here, right? About who you share your aim with.
Absolutely. Hill advises keeping your aim private from those he calls doubting Thomases, the chronic skeptics and naysayers.
The people who, no matter how well-intentioned they might be, tend to inject negativity and doubt into your endeavors.
Their skepticism, even if disguised as concern, can be incredibly undermining, especially in the early stages of pursuing a new and challenging goal.
So it's about being selective with who you share your dreams with, surrounding yourself with those who uplift and empower you, rather than those who drag you down.
And it's important to remember that your definite chief aim isn't just a static goal that you set and forget. It needs to become deeply integrated into your thinking.
Almost like a constant companion, a guiding principle that informs your decisions and actions on a daily basis.
Hill even suggests that it should become like a hobby, something you find yourself constantly thinking about, almost subconsciously.
Like a mental background process that's always running, shaping your perception of opportunities and guiding your choices.
And this leads us to a really crucial distinction, the difference between simply wishing for something and genuinely believing that you will achieve it.
That deep-seated belief, that unshakable conviction, is what fuels action and drives you to persist even in the face of obstacles.
It's the difference between passively hoping for something to happen and actively working towards making it happen.
And a perfect example of this is Thomas Edison's relentless pursuit of the incandescent light bulb. It's estimated that he conducted over 10,000 experiments before finally achieving success.
Imagine the level of belief and commitment required to keep going after so many setbacks.
It's clear that he wasn't just experimenting, he was operating from a place of deep conviction that he would eventually find a solution.
And that brings us seamlessly to the next essential principle, the incredible power of imagination.
Now, this might seem a bit abstract, especially in a conversation about achieving concrete results, but Hill argues that imagination is an incredibly potent force, perhaps even more powerful than capital or influential connections.
He uses the fascinating story of James J. Hill and his ambitious vision for the Great Northern Railway as a prime example.
Now, James J. Hill, no relation to Napoleon, was working in a small railway station when he first conceived of this grand idea. He had no vast fortune, no powerful connections, but he had something far more valuable, a vivid imagination.
He could picture this transcontinental railway connecting the Atlantic and Pacific with such detail and clarity that it was as if he were looking at a blueprint.
And he was able to communicate this vision with such passion and conviction that he inspired others to believe in it and ultimately to invest in making it a reality.
It's like he understood that imagination is not just about daydreaming. It's about creating a mental blueprint for the future you want to build.
And this isn't just limited to grand, large-scale visions. Hill argues that we can use our imagination on a daily basis to solve problems, overcome challenges, and even to better understand and connect with others.
He uses a really insightful analogy to illustrate this point. He says, imagine a pile of loose bricks, lumber, nails, and glass.
Just a random assortment of materials.
Now, on their own, they're not particularly useful or impressive. But what happens when an architect comes along with a clear vision in mind?
They see beyond the scattered materials and imagine a beautiful, functional structure taking shape.
And by combining their imaginative vision with the skill of a builder, they can transform those raw materials into something truly remarkable.
A beautiful home, a towering skyscraper, a bridge connecting communities.
And that's the power of imagination combined with action. It allows us to see potential where others might see only limitations.
We even see this play out on a smaller scale with the story of that dilapidated old barn that was transformed into a thriving automobile supply station.
Someone saw beyond the decay and imagined a new purpose for that space.
With a bit of creative thinking, some investment, and some hard work, they turned what most would have considered a liability into a valuable asset.
And it makes you wonder, what are the old barns in your own life? What are the seemingly mundane or overlooked areas where a little imagination could unlock hidden potential?
It's about challenging ourselves to see things not just as they are, but as they could be.
Now, beyond simply envisioning new creations or possibilities, Hill also emphasizes the incredible interpersonal power of imagination.
What does that mean exactly?
He argues that by consciously using our imagination to step into another person's shoes, to truly try and understand their perspective and their motivations, we can dramatically improve our relationships and our ability to influence others.
So it's not about manipulation or trying to force our own will on others. It's about cultivating a deeper sense of empathy and understanding.
Exactly, and Hill actually shares his own personal experience of using this technique to successfully persuade a governor to support a particular initiative.
By taking the time to genuinely imagine himself in the governor's position, considering the pressures he faced and the factors that might influence his decision, Hill was able to craft a more compelling and persuasive argument.
It's like by putting ourselves in the other person's mental and emotional space, we can anticipate their needs, address their concerns, and ultimately communicate in a way that resonates with them on a deeper level.
It's fascinating how Hill also connects imagination to this concept of telepathy.
He suggests that it might even serve as a means of receiving insights or ideas from external sources.
You mean like a kind of intuition or a sixth sense?
Exactly. Now, this might sound a bit out there, but there's a growing body of research that suggests that our minds are far more interconnected than we previously realized.
So maybe there's something to this idea of tapping into a collective consciousness or receiving insights through non-traditional means.
It's certainly an intriguing area for further exploration, but Hill is careful to ground us by emphasizing that those who possess vivid imaginations must also be doers.
Meaning that it's not enough to simply dream or envision. We need to take action to bring those ideas to life.
Or, crucially, we need to form alliances with individuals who have the practical skills and drive to turn those visions into reality.
Like that architect needs a skilled builder to bring their blueprints to life.
Precisely. And Hill even argues that the very foundation of the United States was a direct result of the powerful imaginations of its founders, combined with their unwavering determination to turn their vision of a new nation into a concrete reality.
So imagination without action is just a fantasy. But imagination coupled with focused effort can be a truly transformative force.
And that leads us nicely into the next crucial element in this formula for success: enthusiasm.
Now, enthusiasm might seem like a somewhat intangible quality, but Hill places enormous importance on it.
He describes it as the very foundation of a pleasing personality, which in turn is essential for influencing others and achieving your goals.
Because, let's face it, we're far more likely to support and cooperate with someone who's genuinely enthusiastic and passionate about what they're doing.
Right, absolutely. Enthusiasm is contagious. It creates a positive and energizing atmosphere that draws people in.
And it's especially important in fields like sales, where building rapport and creating a sense of trust is crucial.
Hill even points to the psychological moment in a sales interaction, where the salesperson's genuine enthusiasm for their product or service can be the decisive factor in closing the deal.
It's like that genuine passion becomes a tangible force that influences the other person's perception and ultimately their decision.
And what's really insightful is how Hill breaks down the mechanisms of suggestion, which is a key component of influence, into three primary channels.
What are those?
First, there's what you say, the actual words you use.
Then there's what you do, your actions and behaviors.
And finally, and perhaps most powerfully, there's what you genuinely think, the underlying beliefs and attitudes that shape your interactions.
And enthusiasm acts as a powerful amplifier for all three of these channels.
If you speak with enthusiasm, your words carry more weight and conviction. If you act with enthusiasm, your energy becomes palpable and infectious. And if you think with enthusiasm, that positive energy radiates outward, influencing those around you.
It's like that inner fire fuels your communication and your actions, making them far more impactful.
And conversely, even the most well-reasoned arguments or logically sound ideas can fall flat if they're delivered without genuine passion and conviction.
People can sense when someone is just going through the motions, lacking that genuine spark.
And Hill even points out how your tone of voice can inadvertently betray a lack of enthusiasm.
So even if you're saying all the right words, if your tone is flat or unenthusiastic, it can undermine your message.
Absolutely. It creates a dissonance between what you're saying and how you're saying it, and people tend to trust the nonverbal cues more.
So cultivating that genuine enthusiasm, that inner fire, is crucial for effectively communicating your ideas and influencing others.
Now, a really practical example of how to apply this principle is illustrated in the story of the life insurance salesman.
Now, life insurance isn't exactly the most exciting product to sell, is it?
Not inherently, no, but this particular salesman had a clever strategy. Instead of immediately bombarding potential clients with sales pitches, he would invest time in building relationships first.
He would make friendly visits, engage in casual conversations, and genuinely get to know the people he was hoping to do business with.
By establishing a rapport and building trust through these non-sales-related interactions, he was effectively neutralizing any initial resistance or skepticism in their minds.
So when he eventually did bring up the topic of life insurance, his suggestions were far more likely to be received favorably.
It was a brilliant example of using enthusiasm and genuine connection to build trust and pave the way for successful influence.
And it's not just about overt sales pitches. Even subtle suggestions delivered with genuine enthusiasm can have a powerful impact.
Think about the story of the magazine subscription salesman. He wasn't aggressively pushing his product. Instead, he casually and enthusiastically remarked on the importance of staying well-informed.
Almost like he was just sharing a personal belief, but in doing so, he subtly planted a seed in the potential customer's mind.
It was a gentle nudge, a suggestion delivered with genuine passion that resonated with the customer's own desire to be knowledgeable.
And it highlights the fact that we're constantly influencing and being influenced by others, even in seemingly insignificant interactions.
But the power of suggestion, especially when fueled by strong belief and enthusiasm, can extend far beyond influencing purchasing decisions.
In what ways?
Hill even mentions documented cases where suggestion has been shown to influence physical ailments.
Really? Like how so?
Well, there are stories of people's warts mysteriously disappearing after being told they would, or even instances where individuals have seemingly induced illness in themselves through negative self-suggestion.
It's like the placebo effect in reverse.
Exactly. And Hill even shares his own experience during life insurance medical examinations, where he found himself questioning his own health simply because of the repeated scrutiny.
It's a fascinating reminder of how powerful our minds are, and how the suggestions we receive, whether from others or from ourselves, can have a profound impact on our physical well-being. So we've got this definite aim, fueled by imagination and propelled by enthusiasm. But like any powerful force, enthusiasm needs direction and control.
Which brings us to the next crucial principle: self-control.
Now, self-control might sound a bit like a killjoy, especially when we're talking about passion and enthusiasm, but Hill argues that it's absolutely essential for channeling those energies effectively.
He describes self-control as the balance wheel that governs enthusiasm, preventing it from becoming scattered, impulsive, and ultimately unproductive.
So it's not about suppressing your passion, it's about directing it in a focused and purposeful way.
Exactly. And he argues that a lack of self-control is one of the most significant weaknesses that can sabotage our efforts, especially in fields like sales, where a single reactive remark or impulsive action can derail a promising opportunity.
I love that anecdote about the saleswoman who calmly and professionally handled an irate customer.
Just by responding with a simple and measured "yes, miss," she immediately diffused a potentially explosive situation.
It's a powerful example of how self-control, even in the face of provocation, can preserve a relationship and ultimately lead to a positive outcome.
And then there's the cautionary tale of the printers who lost a major order simply because of an offhand comment he made while overeating.
It highlights how even seemingly unrelated aspects of our lives, like our eating habits, can impact our professional success if we're not careful.
And it underscores the fact that self-control is not just about managing our emotions in the heat of the moment. It's about cultivating a deeper sense of discipline and self-mastery that extends to all areas of our lives.
So it's about resisting negative external influences, like the constant barrage of negativity and cynicism we're often exposed to.
It's about thinking for ourselves, forming our own opinions based on careful consideration of the facts, rather than being swayed by the opinions of others.
And it's about consciously directing our action and reactions, rather than being controlled by impulses or external pressures.
Hill also places a strong emphasis on the importance of avoiding harmful behaviors like slander and seeking revenge.
It's about rising above pettiness and focusing our energy on our own constructive goals.
He argues that we should strive to understand different viewpoints, even those we strongly disagree with, rather than immediately dismissing them or resorting to personal attacks.
It's about having the maturity and self-control to engage in constructive dialogue, even when it's challenging.
And he also highlights the dangers of forming opinions too hastily, without taking the time to thoroughly examine the facts.
It's about resisting the urge to jump to conclusions or make snap judgments.
And he points to the prevalent spending habit, the tendency to indulge in purchases that go beyond our actual needs, as another manifestation of a lack of self-control.
He even references an economist's prediction that this uncontrolled spending could have severe long-term consequences for society as a whole. It's a reminder that our individual choices, particularly when it comes to finances, can have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves.
And it's fascinating how Hill connects self-control to the behavior of individuals who achieve great things in life.
In what way?
He observes that they often exhibit remarkable restraint when it comes to responding to criticism or attacks from others.
They don't get bogged down in petty squabbles or engage in tit-for-tat retaliations.
Instead, they conserve their energy and focus for more productive pursuits.
Like Warren G. Harding, Woodrow Wilson, and John H. Patterson, who all faced their fair share of criticism and opposition but chose to rise above it.
Ultimately, Hill links self-control to the fundamental ability to direct one's thoughts.
Because our thoughts are incredibly powerful, aren't they? They shape our perceptions, our emotions, and ultimately our actions.
He uses the analogy of the brain as a dynamo, a powerful generator of mental energy.
And self-control is the mechanism that allows us to harness and direct that energy in a focused and constructive way.
Without it, our thoughts can become scattered and unproductive, leading to impulsive actions and missed opportunities.
So cultivating self-control is essential for mastering our minds and ultimately our destinies.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's explore another fascinating principle that Hill emphasizes, the law of increasing returns.
Or, as he also puts up, the importance of going the extra mile.
This principle essentially states that the most reliable and sustainable way to achieve success and abundance in life is to focus on giving first.
Meaning that we should strive to provide value to others, to go above and beyond what's expected of us, and to contribute more than we receive.
Exactly. It's about shifting our mindset from one of scarcity and self-interest to one of abundance and generosity.
Because when we focus on giving, on creating value for others, we naturally attract greater opportunities and rewards into our own lives.
It's like we tap into a universal law of reciprocity, where our positive action and contributions create a ripple effect that ultimately benefits us as well.
The story of Mr. Downs, the diligent railroad employee who consistently volunteered for extra duties, perfectly illustrates this principle.
He wasn't doing it for immediate recognition or reward. He was simply driven by a desire to contribute and to excel in his work.
But that willingness to go the extra mile didn't go unnoticed. He eventually rose through the ranks to become president of the entire company.
His consistent efforts to provide value created a positive upward spiral that ultimately led to greater responsibility and recognition.
And Hill emphasizes that this extra service should be rendered willingly and with a genuine desire to benefit others, rather than as a calculated manipulation or a self-serving tactic.
Because people can sense when someone's actions are motivated purely by self-interest.
It's about cultivating a genuine spirit of service, of wanting to make a positive difference in the world around us.
And when we operate in that place of sincerity, the rewards tend to follow naturally.
Hill even quotes Ralph Waldo Emerson's idea of a third silent party in all our transactions and interactions.
This refers to the inherent natural laws that govern the universe, which ensure that honest effort and valuable service will ultimately be recognized and rewarded.
It's like there's a cosmic balancing act at play, where our positive contributions are never truly lost or wasted.
And it's not just about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about consistently exceeding expectations in our daily lives, whether at work, in our relationships, or in our communities.
Like that stenographer who is earning a modest $15 a week, but who, through her consistent efforts to provide exceptional service, eventually built a successful career as a lecturer, earning over $100,000 a year.
Her dedication to excellence and her willingness to go the extra mile opened up doors of opportunity that she couldn't have imagined in her initial position.
And of course, we have Henry Ford's business philosophy as a prime example of the law of increasing returns at work on a massive scale.
His unwavering focus on providing the highest quality product at the lowest possible price revolutionized the automotive industry and made him one of the wealthiest men in history.
And it all stemmed from a deep understanding that by delivering exceptional value to his customers, his own success would naturally follow.
Now, a really important point that Hill makes is that this principle is not something that could be passively learned through reading or listening. It's a truth that we must actively teach ourselves through consistent effort and action.
It's about getting out there and putting these ideas into practice, experiencing the rewards firsthand, and integrating them into our way of being in the world.
So as we're navigating our path towards success, how do we present ourselves in a way that's both authentic and attractive to others?
This brings us to the importance of developing a pleasing personality.
Now, this isn't about trying to be someone you're not or putting on a fake persona. It's about cultivating the qualities that naturally draw people towards you.
Hill defines personality as the sum total of our individual characteristics and outward appearances.
It's what makes us unique and memorable.
And a pleasing personality, he argues, is one that attracts others, not through superficial charm or manipulation, but through genuine interest, kindness, and respect.
I love that story about the seasoned salesman who tried to trick the new recruit by sending him to a supposedly difficult client.
Who turned out to be quite wealthy and receptive.
It highlights the fact that authenticity and genuine connection will always trump superficial tactic.
Because people can sense when someone is being insincere or trying to put on an act.
Hill's advice is to focus on finding something genuinely admirable in others, to look for the good in people and their work, and to express that appreciation sincerely.
It's about cultivating a mindset of abundance, where we see the value in everyone we encounter, rather than a mindset of scarcity, where we're constantly comparing and competing.
And he provides a practical example of how this principle could be applied in a collaborative setting.
He describes a scenario involving a commercial artist, a copywriter, and a salesperson who combine their talents to provide a comprehensive service to their clients.
By working together harmoniously and focusing on delivering exceptional results, they create a win-win situation where everyone benefits.
It's a reminder that collaboration, when done right, can amplify our individual strengths and lead to greater success for all involved.
And while developing a pleasing personality can certainly bring tangible material advantages, Hill emphasizes that its most profound benefit is the positive impact it has on our own character.
It's like kindness and generosity are not just actions we perform, they're qualities we cultivate within ourselves, ultimately leading to a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Now, with all these principles in play, how do we ensure that we're making sound judgments and pursuing our goals in the most effective way possible?
This brings us to the absolutely crucial foundation of accurate thought.
Hill describes this as the keystone to the arch of his entire philosophy.
Because without the ability to think clearly, to distinguish between facts and opinions, to analyze information objectively, and to make sound decisions, all the other principles can be easily misapplied.
Accurate thinking involves a few key steps. First, it requires separating facts from mere information.
Meaning that we need to critically evaluate the sources of our information, considering potential biases, agendas, and the reliability of the evidence presented.
Then, we need to organize those facts, categorizing them based on their relevance and importance to our goals.
We need to prioritize what truly matters and avoid getting bogged down in extraneous details.
And finally, we need to use those carefully analyzed and prioritized facts to construct definite plans of action that will guide us towards our desired outcomes.
It's about moving from a place of vague ideas and assumptions to a place of clarity, logic, and decisive action.
Hill wisely cautions against a very human tendency, the inclination to disbelieve or dismiss anything that we don't fully understand or that challenges our existing beliefs.
It's like that old saying, we hear what we want to hear and see what we want to see.
It's essential to cultivate an open and receptive mind, one that's willing to consider new information, even if it's initially uncomfortable or contradicts our current understanding.
Because often the most valuable insights come from challenging our assumptions and expanding our perspectives.
And he also stresses the need to avoid making snap judgments about people or situations.
It's so easy to jump to conclusions based on limited information or first impressions.
But accurate thinking requires taking the time to observe, to gather more data, to consider different viewpoints, and to form our opinions based on a more complete understanding.
And it's essential to be aware of our own biases, those preconceived notions that can unconsciously influence our perceptions and decisions.
We all have them, but by acknowledging them, we can take steps to mitigate their influence.
Hill also highlights the dangers of slander and gossip, pointing out that it's often based on incomplete information or malicious intent.
It's so easy to spread rumors or make negative judgments about others, especially when we don't have all the facts.
But accurate thinking requires us to be discerning, to question the validity of such claims, and to avoid participating in harmful speculation.
And he points out how rare it is for someone to speak of an enemy or someone they dislike without resorting to exaggeration or outright falsehoods.
Even historical figures like Harding, Wilson, and Patterson, all accomplished individuals, were often victims of unfair rumors and accusations.
It's a reminder that we should always strive to be fair and objective in our assessments of others, even those with whom we disagree.
This leads into a really fascinating discussion about the different stages of human thought that Hill outlines.
He suggests that humanity has progressed through distinct periods of mental development, culminating in what he calls the spiritual period.
What characterizes this period?
It's a stage where individuals have developed the ability to tap into a higher form of intelligence, a source of wisdom and insight that goes beyond purely rational or logical thought.
So it's about accessing a deeper level of understanding, a kind of intuition or inspiration that transcends the limitations of our conscious minds.
Exactly. And Hill points to historical figures like Moses, Christ, and Plato as examples of individuals who, to varying degrees, exhibited this capacity for spiritual insight.
Now, this might sound a bit mystical or abstract, but it's an idea that's been explored by philosophers and spiritual thinkers throughout history.
And Hill suggests that we can cultivate this ability through the practice of autosuggestion.
What does that involve?
It's the process of deliberately impressing our definite chief aim and related positive affirmations onto our subconscious minds through repeated, focused thought.
So it's about consciously programming our minds with the beliefs and attitudes that will support us in achieving our goals.
And it's not about passive wishing or magical thinking. It's about creating a mental and emotional environment that's conducive to success.
And Hill contrasts this with hypochondria, which he sees as a negative form of autosuggestion, where individuals convince themselves they're ill even when there's no medical evidence to support it.
It's a stark illustration of how powerful our minds are and how our thoughts can shape our reality, for better or for worse.
So it's essential to be mindful of the thoughts we're feeding our minds, to cultivate positive and empowering beliefs, and to consciously direct our mental energy towards our desired outcomes.
And this brings us to the critical skill of concentration.
Now, concentration might seem like a straightforward concept, but Hill describes it as a freely developed ability that goes beyond simply paying attention.